And it's recording.
It is. All
Perfect.
right. It's 101, so it's time to get started. And do you want to cue the music up one more time? So obviously this is going to be a fairly laid back approach to talking about InfoGuides today, but we have all made it through a very eventful planning week, and we're excited to that you could show up on a Friday at the end of planning week to hear a little bit about how InfoGuides work. And I'm going to go ahead. We do have a PowerPoint, of course, to share, so I'm going to share that, and then AJ, while I'm sharing my screen, if you'll just help me if there's any questions in the chat, we'll make sure that because throughout this, yes, we'll be talking, but this is also a little bit workshoppy. So we want this to be, open for any kind of questions that you have throughout. And we'll have some kind of show and tell aspects to the presentation as well. So let me share and we'll get started. All right, can everybody see that?
I do.
Awesome. Cool. So yes, welcome to the InfoGuides workshop.
Hey, Carla's here.
Yay, welcome, Carla.
I'm sorry, guys. My camera's still not working, but I'm here, and I apologize for not introducing you to everyone.
Mercedes, you have a question?
I was going to clap for Carla.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, welcome, Carla. Everybody's welcome to clap at any point. That's fine too. But yes, this is our InfoGuides workshop as part of fall planning. And AJ, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do as the Emerging Technologies Librarian.
I am AJ, and that's my title. Very long, Emerging Technology Librarian. Basically, that's a fancy way to say that I am the librarian that have take charge of the website, the library website, and I also happen to work with that thing that you see that we've been using in the last 2 years called a chat. And part of the website is also the InfoGuide. So I also administrate them and update most of them and create them when you need a new one. And
And
Kristen, what do you do on your job?
I'm Kristen Vales. I'm part of the Writing Center, and I get to work with an amazing team of writing specialists as part of, and student workers and part-time. We have levels of staff in the Writing Center, and we all have one goal is to support students. Now, obviously, just like all the rest of us, last year kind of challenge us to reach students in new ways. So we pride ourselves on being a very innovative department to try to be those people who will try new things. That includes things like technology. So AJ is a good friend to have as the Emerging Technologies Librarian because we use tools like the InfoGuide and the chat and our website to make sure that students can reach our resources online, and then also train them to use those tools so they can be more efficient as students too. So we've got kind of a simple agenda for today. I'm going to let AJ kind of walk you through what is the purpose of the info guides and why they're a little bit different than just a website. And if any of you are part of like the larger conversations with the renovation of the college's website, you'll see how there is really a differentiation between how the college even views our website as like a marketing tool and how info guides allow us to be a little bit more robust with some of the content that we can create. We'll talk a little bit about how info guides work, and AJ can kind of show you a little bit behind the scenes if we need to. And then we'll talk a little bit about some tips for creating your own if that's something you're interested in after we talk about it.
Yes. So before we start, I'm sure that most of you have been on the info guide. Do you have a favorite info guide? Please, if you do, feel free to share it. I honestly want to know what your favorite info guides are. I know Kristen, of course that one, citation and documentation. Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. Oh, that one's very good, and I can mention that Dustin before and Kathy now, they're doing an excellent job in that one. Oh, that one is new and also very good, and that's work by Erin. I'm mentioning names for a reason. You'll see why I'm mentioning that reason. Any other? Yeah, the new I'm by the new AAC info guide. I'm gonna mention Erin Scott, but I know she have a group of people working on that one. Yes, the student service is very good, and there's someone, and I'm so bad to say that the person that is working on that, the name escaped me right now, but yes, there's someone working on that one that is making that info guide as good as it is. Can we go next?
Yes. I was just say these are some of the most popular ones. And then I was just going to acknowledge that the Let's Keep Teaching one, mind you, this is just a sampling of the 139, and you guys brought up some other awesome ones. But the Let's Keep Teaching was vital last year. So more, again, kudos to AJ and Cheryl's
Sure.
department for getting an info guide ship shape so teachers can move online. So they have become, if you didn't know about them before, a lot of, a lot of faculty became much more aware of info guides last year. And like I said too, with the context of the website being changed a little bit, it's opening up some new opportunities for us to use the info guides in a different way.
And I want to mention that we're gonna go in a very broad scope here about the info guides. But if you need to, for your student to have a quick reminder of what an info guide is, the library have this video that I won't show it right now, but you can go to our, because I want you to go to our YouTube channel. I want you to subscribe to our channel. I want you to watch our videos. But you can embed that video on your course shelf, on your class, and it's a very step-by-step short video that will explain the student how to navigate the info guides we're gonna create today.
So check it out.
Please. And what is an info guide? I mean, we at first we used to call them research starters because that was the original idea of the info guides, to have a place for our students to have a place to start their research. But they have become much more than that. They are what in the jargon we call micro web pages. And in those web pages, we have a lot of content related to Daytona State College and a little bit about Volusia County. Volusia County. Um, but mostly covers Daytona State College services like the library, Academic Support Center, Falcon Online, the Faculty Innovation Center. We have information for faculty and staff, like we mentioned. We have the faculty guidelines. We have one for part-time faculty. And of course, we still have our research starters for the different course and programs. But regarding the information that we have in the info guides, what they shine on is in guide users, students, staff, faculty, in the first step to get the information they need. And going back, even when we have moved beyond the research starters, there's still starters to get you the right information and start where you need to start to know what you need, what you need to know about a certain topic. Next one.
I'm trying.
Go for it. Da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da.
There we go.
Ah, there we are. So, like we mentioned before, we have 139 info guides available for the public, because we actually have 11 other info guides that are not available for the public that we use for different departments. One of the best example is um, the chat info guide. That's not even listed in the info guide list, but we have an info guide there that if all the chat users use when they have questions, and when about the how the chat works, and when a new person get added to the chat, that's where they start learning about the chat. They're very popular. Last fiscal year alone, they were watched over 390,000 times. And our most popular info guide, that is even more popular than our homepage, is Falcon Online with 79,000 views. The reason for that being that popular is that is embedded in D2L. So students go there to the InfoGuide. And you guys will say how AJ handle 139 InfoGuides that are so popular, have so many views, and keep them up to date. I don't. Don't by myself. No human can do that by himself. I have I call them my team. We all work in different departments. Some of us we only talk in emails. Some of us we do see each other, but we have 34 editors that make those info guides shine. That's what I when I were asking about your favorite info guides. I told you who work on that info guide because I have expert. I'm a librarian, but I am not an expert in citation and documentation, or I am not full-time faculty to work on the guidelines. So we have experts working behind the scenes in those info guides to the point that our top 10 info guides are actually, except for three that are for the library that I manage day to day, all the other ones are managed by their editors and keep them up to date. Oh, and that's the graphic. An editor with an info guide, an info guide with an editor is success. The successful info guides are the one that actually have an editor working with me on those guides. Next. And one of the perks of the info guide that is easy to collaborate and link across departments. Both of our research info guides link to the citation and documentation info guide. You can have the keep teaching info guides linking to the faculty Senate info guide. So it's easy to interconnect all that information to keep it in one single place. The user get a correct service for appropriate support. Like when they go to the writing center info guide, they don't only have the library chat; they also have the writing center chat, and they have the info in each info guide depending on the information they need. The faculty online have the proper information for IT, so a student can get in touch with them. Um, and everything is in one place. Everything looks the same. Everything is in just in one single area. And the best thing about the info guides is that they're easy to update and to edit to the point that one of if best practice are followed, let's say that, and this is the best example. Every year we change the student handbook. I have the student handbook in one asset in the library. So every time the handbook change, I update it in that asset, but it changed in all the pages that is in all the info guides that handbook is linked. It takes me just get the new handbook and 5 minutes, and that works with everything in the info guide from text to videos, as long as we follow the best practices. And since you're working with me, we're gonna follow them. Um, Keeping everything in the same page with the same information should be fairly easy.
Absolutely.
And now it's Kristen's turn.
Well, I was going to say, acknowledging that that there are so many info guides, I think kind of is one instance of their how easy they are to use. So when we were interested in starting info guides, AJ was very helpful to describe the system that is used for the backend for the management of the info guides, LibGuides. As part of it was software developed for librarians who maybe weren't as tech savvy as AJ, right? So to be able to use this software, it kind of it's so user friendly that you do, I mean, it has the ability to do some stuff with code, but you don't have to be a coding expert to be able to develop and maintain these web pages. So that was one thing that was really appealing, is that, okay, when you're looking at this is easy to navigate from the maintenance side as well as the student side. So it's like a win-win. It's pretty on the back side, and it's also outward facing as a kind of a unified user experience. So once students get familiar with the info guides, they have an idea of the look and feel of them. So with that, I am very proud to say that the Writing Center's info guides are some of the most popular, and they are maintained by our awesome writing specialists who are experts in the things that we are creating content for. So the main three that we get a lot of hits for is the online communication and or netiquette. We developed that specifically for students as they increase their online communication, especially last year. So there's some tips on there for how to do discussion boards, how to send an email to your instructor, things that we kind of take for granted, but students really need those tools. So that was a very nice place to develop an info guide for. We've got some broader tips and tricks on writing strategies and grammar. And then, yes, our citation and documentation one is very popular. And these are all created and maintained by the writing specialists. So Brett Feller, Maduri, and Laura are all awesome curators and content creators for these. So, but what does that look like? This is what we do for our department.
Sorry to interrupt you. I need
What's
to
that?
just mention it. Sorry to interrupt you. One of the reasons I'm doing the presentation with the Writing Center is because they are the standard I use when I pitch the use of InfoGuides to other departments. They do such an excellent job that I have to up my games so I can look like their InfoGuide.
Thanks, AJ. That's a credit to the team. So we're lucky that we see the value of these tools, and our department has reflected that by creating good content. So, but when we were starting to think about what to do, there is kind of like a process. So if you're like, okay, what does this look like for me? I think I would like to have an info guide. Kind of the first step in the process to request via AJ, hey, is this info guide viable? So part of that is you're going to get a yes or a no. And I only say that because some of the labels and stuff might be like that content might already be in existence. So maybe it's adding to an existing info guide rather than creating a new one. Or it's, oh, gee, I noticed that we have 3 info guides that all kind of are covering similar topics. Maybe it's time that we need to merge that into one more robust info guide. So yeah, there are a lot, but AJ is definitely, he is not maintaining all those pages, but he has the bird's eye view of what content is out there, either hidden or or available to the public. So that's kind of the first step. So if you're kind of listening in and thinking, yeah, I think we need an info guide on this, you are going to have to kind of specify your topic and get a yes or a no. The next part is to assign a team. So this is awesome because I have such wonderful content creators here that they are also very quick studies. So the process is to learn how to use LibGuides, and AJ is a very good trainer. And if any of the folks that are on here, I won't put Maduri or Laura on the spot, but if you guys want to comment what your training experience was like, you are welcome to. But I will speak for a couple. Like mine was, I met with AJ, he showed me the ropes and I was like, I get it. Okay, cool. It was pretty easy. And that was basically the process for me. Does anybody else want to share what their process was like, or if it was different than a meeting with AJ?
Lara is ready to speak.
Okay, cool.
I can
Thank
share.
you.
I can share something.
Oh, Carla can go first. That's fine.
Okay.
You sure? Okay, I'm sorry. Well, AJ trained our team, so it was it was in 1 hour team meeting, and he showed us how to create it. But it was for the whole team, so we haven't started working on that yet. But it was an easy training, and he was he mentioned so many times that he's always available to help us. So we feel confident that we can do this.
Yes, we can. That's my motto. We can do this.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what Carla said. I think that AJ's availability and just willingness to help however he can has made the process of learning how to use the info guides a lot easier. I was a little intimidated at first because I don't honestly know anything about code. But as Kristen mentioned earlier, you really don't need to. It's a very user-friendly interface, and it's also easy to contact AJ with questions, and he gets back to you like super fast. I don't know how he does it. So yeah, it's really good.
We call him the Speedy Gonzalez.
That's good. I like that, Mercedes.
Very good.
Midori has her hand up.
Go for it, Maduri.
Hello, sorry, I didn't know I was muted. Yeah, so I've also worked on the InfoGuide, and I kind of went through a similar training process as Laura. We were actually together in a room, and AJ went over like the main things. We only had one session, but I had multiple back and forth emails with AJ. He would send like very quick emails that like included like screenshots of things so that like it was so much easier to pick up on things. And info guides are actually very user friendly, and there are certain things that may cause limitations, but as long as we know that, and AJ really highlights those things, so we keep that in mind. And yeah, I've been introduced to so many different tools in info guides, which was really impressive in the past couple of weeks, actually. So yeah, it was actually a really cool experience.
Midori is in an advanced course right now.
Yeah, I learned quite a bit, so I'm actually excited to use that and more often as well. Yeah.
Michael has his hand up too.
Cool.
Go ahead, Michael.
His mic is muted.
I think so. Yeah, Mike is muted. You're having technical problems, Michael? We shall continue, and if he
Okay.
gets
I was
managed
just
to
say, if you
speak,
get audio
yeah,
back, chime in.
yeah,
That's
we'll
for sure.
answer the question. Yeah, of course.
And I'll just a little bit like, yes, Midori is in like the advanced LibGuides course at this point. And I think that that's kind of the cool thing too, is you don't have to be, and I'll kind of, I was much more like Laura. I was like, I don't know how, I haven't coded anything in like a long time. So, but there's nice too, because you have the flexibility, like you can start and then evolve your content as you need to. But the baseline is still very effective. Like just learning the ropes is enough to kind of get your info guide up and going. And as part of that, teaching the users, this is also speaking to that collaborative nature of the info guide. So you do have a great resources in AJ. And as we have so many more developers, you have other people who are out there. So you have someone like Midori who, if AJ isn't Speedy Gonzalez that day, you have other folks that are frequently using and modifying their own info guides that can be helpers also. So yeah, so part of the process is part of that is teaching and kind of learning the ropes, and then also creating your content. So ideally, you got a yes or a no on that first step. So that means you are creating new content. You're not creating content that already exists. And then the next key step, and this is, yes, a little bit of a plug for the Writing Center. As part of any good writing process, you should get feedback. So as part of the feedback stage, that should include usually a couple people. Ideally, the users that are collaborating on the info guide together have already kind of vetted their content. If it's just one person, yes, they've given it a look over. And then also their supervisors should take a look at the content that's being created with that kind of bird's eye view to streamline anything else that's out there. And then also AJ will do the same. So it's really on the department level and the content creator to make sure that the content is solid. And then AJ can also help with anything that's like we've had some things where like the font looks a little bit weird. Why is the font weird on this line and not the other line? And we reach our limit, but we know that we want to make the font look consistent. That's where AJ can come in, right? He's not going to write the examples for it, but when we get to that kind of polishing stage, he can provide those kind of little tweaks and tech edits for us. But that's a very important part of the process too, to make sure that if we are putting this information out there, that it has had another set of eyes on it before it's published on the web. And then last but not least, you do get to publish it. So then you get to have an awesome info guide that now is live and can be shared on the info guide page.
A quick question about that. A quick question, a quick comment about that. There's a workflow to publishing the info guides. You have to, when you click publish, if you're only an editor, you will see an option that says request publishing. You won't have the straight up publishing, and that an email will arrive, and it will go to myself and 4 other individuals. That the first usually is myself who get it first. Um, by that point, we probably already talked about that the content is correct. The only thing I'm gonna check is that, yeah, that it looks you're using the right code, that you didn't copy paste weird Comic Sans fonts and stuff like that, and then we will publish. So that's the only that's but there's a step there that it will go to a small review to me and four more people.
And to me, I like that because again, I'm fairly tech savvy. I'm fairly confident, but anytime you're publishing something online, you do want to make sure it's polished. So there's kind of nice built-in checks and balances that you can't break anything before it's going to go live. So to me, that's a nice part of this process. So that you have some checks and balances and helpers along the way. So, and again, I'm kind of aiming that for anybody who is like join this session today with the idea of maybe I want to try to do one, but I've never written a web page before. It's okay. You'll have help, and then you'll also you can't break anything before it's published, right? Like there's a very limited margin of error. So AJ will make sure we don't break the library's InfoGuide website, right, AJ?
Yes, yes.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, I already wrote one page once. I won't allow you to make my mistake.
Cool. Questions about any of these steps?
I want to mention that Brett says in the chat that and it's true. There's a lot of documentation available from SpringShare,
Hmm.
Help Center found in Google, and even when you're in the InfoGuides, there's like a question, an icon with a question mark. You click there, and it will have the documentation. That honestly, sometimes when you make me a question that I don't know the answers, that's where I get it. They're very good at documenting their software.
Yeah, this is fairly widely used by a lot of other libraries, so it is good that we don't have to reinvent the wheel on a lot of resources, which is nice. Okay. And I just did want to give a shout out to the Citation and Documentation Info Guide because it was the 5th most popular overall info guide in 2020, which is definitely brag worthy. And then even just in the spring, it was also, these are just our numbers from the spring. You can see that it was very widely used in the spring semester as well. But I highlight this not just because it's one that the writing specialist team have put a lot of work into. They've put a lot of work into it multiple times. So the little wrench and screwdriver here represent maintenance. So as part of the info guide and kind of our college's larger conversation about making sure information is not just out there, but that it's current and relevant, is something that you have to take into consideration if you're going to create and then also curate and maintain an info guide. So I just want to, this is a perfect opportunity for me to brag again for Laura, Brett, and Missouri, because not just that they, especially like Laura and Missouri, APA style, if any of you are using APA style in your research writing, they had a big update a couple years ago now, and we created a whole bunch of new materials to go into the info guide. Well, after we've been using it for a little while, we realized we probably even need more examples for students, and even just to use in our tutoring sessions and actually to share with other faculty and students. So they've continued to add to that baseline that they after creating the updated APA info guide. And then also Brett has taken the lead this year to MLA style, has come out with their 9th edition, which is just a little bit different than the 8th, but these are not static pages is kind of the thing that I want you to take away, that they were good before, but they're even better because we continue to maintain and update them as needed so that stuff is current, and that speaks to the credibility and the value of the pages. One really nice thing with these updates though too, and why this is kind of a unique page, is the way that we've been able to format it is we're keeping some of the old content so it can kind of live side by side with the new updates. And AJ, of course, again, was very helpful in helping with the formatting part of that. But yeah, the takeaway here is just there's work in the upstart, but then there's work in the maintenance. So kudos to the writing center team. So they're not just making content, they're making sure it's current for faculty and students. Because AJ can't be doing all the updates. We have to do the updates.
I just sometimes don't know that there's an update.
for any number of topics. So that's
Right.
the other kind. I don't want to say that's like a catch of the InfoGuide is you have to keep feeding it. It's something that there are a few things that maybe can live as static pages, but most things are constantly changing. So.
And don't get me wrong, some departments send as soon as they have an update, they send me the update, and
Yeah.
I'll do it. But my headspace is it's a big head, but it doesn't have enough information to know about the hundred. That's those 139 subjects plus my regular library job.
Right.
So, and that's something that we also can do. We do that with some people. If you send me information, I'll do the update. But most of those info guides that are in the top 10, yes, there are three that I update because they're the most important library web pages. But the other ones, I don't even touch them. Those are the department themselves that make sure that those info guides shine.
Okay, yes, you can see our email and stuff, and we're appreciative you're here. But we kind of just want to open it up now to any discussion or questions that you have about the info guide. So hopefully the process seems pretty straightforward, and that you would see that there's support if you're considering to make an info guide, or maybe you already have an info guide and you have other tips that you would like to share. These are just kind of our experiences. Like I said, I'm very lucky to have just awesome folks who were also very open and willing to try these, and they've been really successful for our department. So if anybody has other tips that they want to share, or if you're like, okay, I'm thinking about doing this topic or this info guide, I'd love to hear it.
And if you're too shy to say it out loud, we have a form. It's in the chat.
In the
Carla.
chat.
Well, I just want to make a comment that Rachel helped me a couple years ago to create an info guide for an online class that I teach, so students don't have to purchase the textbooks. They are using open resources, and it has worked actually for 2 classes because it's quality, and I don't have to. The quality concepts and the gurus are out there everywhere. So we used the info guide so students don't have to pay for the textbook.
I love that.
And we have a new tool that probably we should talk about it. Is the e-reserve that actually we can hold like for a course, electronic resources, and we can link that to the info guide and we can link that to D12. So email me, you know where I am.
Yeah, Kathy.
Yeah.
My tip would be just to try to make sure, because they can get complicated, to link to things that are like original resources so that you're not duplicating a lot of resources, because your info guide can become outdated very quickly if you're trying to duplicate information or resources.
Yes, that's very good, Kathy. That's it. That's why at the beginning I said that for when our citation, all our course info guides have a tab for citation and documentation, but we are not repeating new content. We are linking to the citation and documentation info guide because I have no reason to repeat something that is already there. So you just go to that area, and like I mentioned at the beginning, is where we start. Is where the students start getting information. Yes, the students go to the info guide and find citation information, citation and documentation information. But in the end, the best, the final answer is to have a peer tutor or an specialist sit down with the student and help them. The info guide help them those first steps. It will help them in all the different subjects, those first steps. But a good info guide will tell you where to go to the step number 2. So, and that's the goal with the info guides.
Just one other quick tip is to really think out what you name the info guide, because that determines where you show up on the list.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. don't call it a InfoGuide because you know. And I
Good
also
one. Good one.
I also not many people see this. I have, unlike most librarians, that they have their subjects by math, English. Um, I divided the info guides in 7 different subjects that are academic support services, community and special events, Daytona State College courses and program, Daytona State College services, faculty and staff, library services, and student life. And the info guides are under those. For example, the library services will have everything that is basically like the one I work with, the one that are about the library. In faculty and staff, you will find the list of faculty senate, part-time, the guidelines, self-service, let's keep teaching, and so on. Academic support will have information about the writing center, citation. We have the academic support. So there's a when you go by subject in the main page of the info guides, they are divided um by their main topic. There because I do know, and that's something that I've been struggling with for almost 2 years now, that we have 139 info guides. Um, and last year I said I'm gonna remove any info guide that have um 50 or more, 50 or less views in a year. I only removed two. You see, it's not because people see them and the um yeah, I wonder sometimes. We have one about dance, and that one has like 70 views in the year, and it's amazing that because I only think about that info guide at the end of the year when I said that one is going out, but it's not. It has over always a lot of views, so people are using it. People are using them. Um,
Yeah, I
but
wanted
yeah,
to. What's that?
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, just to say that I wanted to kind of loop back a little bit. This is, I guess, a fun fact, kind of trivia. So I don't know. Most of these are outward facing and I would say driven for faculty and students. However, there some of those like unlisted one for departments, like AJ referenced one that we use it for some internal chat training purposes. And I want to give out a shout out to like the SLS department. I know they were an early department who started using initially one of their info guides as like a password protected info guide to house some teaching materials for their adjuncts. So if any of you are in a position where you are hiring and mentoring and training new adjuncts, you know that sometimes that means there's a little bit of a process in getting any kind of part-time staff onboarded. So just getting them access to a DSC computer or account can be a little bit, it can take a couple more time than you want it to when you're trying to get them information fast. So the info guide was one really nice way to house some materials, and then they could just send them the link and the password, and their adjuncts could have access to all the stuff almost immediately. So anyway, I was just gonna say, I don't want to say that it's like a fix all for everything, but there are some really interesting ways that people have used the info guides here. And I just found out, and I don't try not trying to pick on you, Maduri, but Maduri has been working on some of the curriculum for the SLS program, for their like career driven curriculum. And she was like, yeah, you can put like a quiz in the info guides. And I was like, I had no idea. So like there's even some other user tools in there that once you poke around and with time and training, there's some really robust capabilities that are beyond even just information sharing, which is cool.
That's why she's in the advanced
She
training.
is an advanced user. Gold
Yes.
star for Maduri, advanced user,
Yeah.
super user.
And that's another thing that we can have password protected info guides. Last year we have a course BBE training, I think it was, um, because I don't remember the details, but the student needed access to their documents, and the professor didn't want to have the e-resources because he didn't want them to be public. So we created InfoGuide with a password that only the student have access, and the professors during the as the course progress, he was sending me the documents, and we updated the InfoGuide. So so we can make password protected. Hold on, I cannot see because I have the chat open. It says, as an advisor, I share the math resources page a lot, help students prepare the math. Oh, awesome, thank you. And Jasmine says, I agree with Kristen. The info guides were helpful for sharing resources that we normally share in formal training, but need to go out quickly during the beginning of COVID-19. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Again, if you have an idea for InfoGuide, the link is in the chat or you can just call me and we have a chat about it. Um, Use them, promote them. But oh, by the way, if you're following the library Facebook, we have a thread today about what's your favorite InfoGuide. Go there, let us know. Uh, so the chat info is pinned up from yes, yes, it
Absolutely.
is. It is from March to April 2020. Still amazing, actually. It is. It is. So it feels like we're patting ourselves in the back, and sort of we are because we've been very successful with this project. It has worked very well, and you will keep seeing them. You will see them in the strangest places eventually. So feel free to, and if you see, oh, I almost never say this, but in the bottom of all the info guides, um, there's a option to let us know that if you see something wrong, like if you see a mistake on the info guide, and I will get that email and I will do my best to fix it as soon as possible because it will stress me out to know that there's something wrong on the info guide. So click there and as soon as I get the email, I'll update it. And right now I'm freaking out with the math, the information about math. I haven't updated that info in a long time. So you know what I'm gonna do when I'm done here, right? Work on that one.
Brett, did you have something to comment?
Yeah, with what you just said, AJ, with the button at the bottom, if there's something like out of date, I'm on one of the info guides now that I actually notice has some like out of date staff information on it. What exact button like are you referring to?
Let me go back to the math. There's like a report a problem. Do I remove that? It's not. Oh, I removed that. So you can easily click on where it says in ask, meet a librarian. Oh, I see it. I see it. It says report a problem on the bottom before the dark banner, the footer on the bottom. Can you see this? This says report a problem under login to Live apps. You probably won't
Oh,
see
do you
that,
have to be logged in to see it?
no, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't need that. May I share my screen one moment? So I'm here already, and I am in the regular page. And here there is a report a problem link. You click on it, and you can report it, and I will get an email. Do you see that? Not all the info guys have them. They have.
I was just about to say, I think the one I'm looking at doesn't have that on it then.
Which one you are?
Just because I was talking with some of the athletes today, I went on the athletic training info guide, and it still lists Kim as the director of athletic training. I think she retired. Kim Sabi, I think.
Oh, this one. You're right. This one doesn't have it. I'll work on that. Thanks for letting me know.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to reach out after the presentation anyways with what you were saying.
Perfect.
Is there a reason some pages would have it and some pages wouldn't, or is it just?
There is a reason for that. Let me log into the page. Is because probably what they use for this page is not they. I didn't want to get into technical information. Guide metadata. This is what type of InfoGuide it is. Probably is an internal InfoGuide or instead
Okay.
of or how we call this. Let me guide, new guide, create guide.
Now, what AJ is showing behind the scenes, I don't want words like guided metadata to turn anybody off from thinking that they can do this.
To have that option, it has to be a general purpose info guide or a course guide. If it's internal or template, it won't show that information. For example, the homepage basically is an info guide, doesn't have that. So probably that's what happened, but I'll fix that. I'll work on that. That's another info guide. Again, that's another info guide that I haven't touched. I know it gets used because I haven't. When I make the reports, it show up that get traffic, but I actually don't get to update it as often as I wish I could have updated because I don't follow the teams. I don't know who's part of the staff, but we'll fix that. We'll fix that now that I know that there's something wrong with it.
Thanks, AJ.
You're welcome.
Right, that's what we had to talk about, and I hope, like I said, it seems that you're getting the takeaways or that this is a very valuable tool, that it can share a lot of information, and that if it's something that you or your department are interested in, it's there's a little bit of startup and some maintenance, but that there's support and it's a fairly user-friendly process to do that. So does anybody have any other questions or comments? If
Yes.
clapping is fine too. Thanks, Brett.
They mentioned that. Yeah, they can go directly to the info guide, to the Falcon Online. You're welcome,
Awesome.
everyone.
Yes, thank you guys so much for again. I know we've powered through. Let's all just, for those of you that are here, it's the end of planning week, which is invigorating and also exhausting in all the best possible ways. So kudos to you guys for making it to 149 on Friday.
Yes.
And I think we'll all have fresh faces as we welcome students back next week. So thank you all for your time and
thank you, Kristen, and thank you,
yeah.
AJ, for your presentation. And please don't forget that we have one more to go. We can do this. So it is.
I was going to say it's a good way to end on call to care. If you're making a plug for that, I think that's a good
absolutely.
one. So.
It's a call to care, and we have Liz Barnes and Dr. Lakeisha Holmes, and it's going to be a good one. So thank you again for sticking with us, and have a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
And AJ, when you can send us that recording, and I'm sorry I couldn't record at first.
We got you. It's all good.
Thanks so much, y'all.
Bye.
Hey, Kokomo.